I am a man of a lot of ideas. So today I have something very special for my fellow DC fans out there. If you're like me, you've been watching the DC universe unfold on the big screen with a mix of excitement and hope, and let's be real, most of the time frustration. But what if I told you that I had a vision for the DC movies that could completely save the universe? Yep, we're talking fan casting, storylines, and a way for DC to be more inclusive and culturally rich. So let's get into it. So firstly, I need to give you a basic breakdown of what happened in the DCEU in the first place, why we moved on to James Gunn and my opinions of what he's going to do with the future, and then finally I'll give you the actual solution of what DC needs to incorporate in order for our franchise to finally be a success. So with that being said, it's no surprise to anybody that Marvel's MCU kind of redefined what it meant to be a successful superhero franchise, or at least one that produces 22.5 billion in just 3 phases and then an abysmal 7.9 for the remainder. But it was with that success that led DC to get into a panic to kind of replicate what Marvel was doing, but with far superior IP. But unfortunately, I don't think Marvel was ever cut out for that kind of setup. But again, that's something I will talk about later on. And it's in that DCEU era, especially when it came to like the live action movies, that in my opinion, everything just felt kind of like a desperate rush to catch up to Marvel's MCU. But I and most DC fans that I've talked to were more than happy to wait like 10 years to see this fully rolled out and fleshed out properly to build up to the franchise that MCU did. They did it the proper way. We could do it too. But DC got greedy. They wanted to just get star power behind each one of these actors, minus the casting of The Flash, Justice for Grant. So with all of these, let's just get the lore out of the way movies, shoehorned in with cameos and desperate attempts of just, these are callbacks to comic book storylines for fan service and weak Easter eggs. It just felt like DC came up short. It just felt lazy. All in all, this wave of movies just missed the mark. It ran into many issues with production and just never took its time to earn its stripes. Now, let's jump into the James Gunn CU, working title, which has 3 major talking points that kind of grabbed my attention. First and foremost, he wants all of the DC movies, TV shows, and video games to be connected, which to me was kind of just like, that's a red flag. The second point that stood out was James Gunn is giving most of the power to his writers. This point I love. You could tell James Gunn genuinely cares a lot about each one of the DC properties and is bringing on so many writers to each one of these projects that care just as much. And hopefully we get a bunch of projects that are well laid out and just aren't CGI dumps that assume each one of the DC fans just want shiny things, and we're blinded by lack of storyline or whatever because we see decent fights and explosions. That ain't it, Chief, I promise you. And then his last point is allowing there to be an Elseworld where all of these current and possibly future DC projects can exist untouched, but it has no connection to the Gunn CU, which is kind of the same direction in which I want to go. But now, I don't want to say I don't have faith in James Gunn. It's more along the lines of, I'm concerned that each one of the projects will have the same pacing as the other movies that he's done. And even though it's been, a great success and kudos to him, I'm not excited to see another raunchy comedy just heavily dosed in, wild jokes and this back and forth banter between teams and whatever. Yes, we sprinkle in some great fight scenes and that stuff. That's fantastic. That works for the Suicide Squad and, future for the Creature Commandos and perhaps Booster Gold. That's fantastic. But with all due respect, we as the DC audience have been waiting for years for our big heroes, our big properties, the members to be put on the silver screen in the right way. Again, earn our stripes, which I guess I could put some type of, level of respect to. DC, put your dick on the table. Like, if you know what you're doing, show you know what you're doing. Don't try to go, we're starting from the ground up and giving you some halfway decent properties. Like, I know that James Gunn is going to touch on, Superman Legacy and Supergirl and give the Green Lantern Corps this TV show, like this mystery detective thing, which is great, but it's not what I want. It's not what we need. It's not what the DC fans deserve. So let's just fast forward to my plan. Come here. DC, the plan is simple. Stop trying to have our universe be connected. We don't need it. Since the dawn of our existence, we've had 56 Batmans, 42 Supermans, and 15 Flashes. These numbers may not be real, but you get my drift. We don't need this perfect casting of this one man has to be Superman, this one man has to be Batman, whatever, and built a universe around them. Why? We could have 100 different universes exist simultaneously, and we as a DC fan are okay with that because we've been okay with that since the existence of fucking time. Like literally every single comic book series is completely different. It doesn't have to string together. We're still gonna pick it up. We're still gonna read it. Like it's simple. It's simple. You don't need to be the MCU and everything be like, whoa, this connected, which led to here, and whoa, wow, the writers went crazy. No. One movie, knock it out the park. Next movie, knock it out the park. They don't need to connect. They just need to be good movies. They need to be characters that we care about. It's a simple ask, DC. Get your shit together. But I'll dive deeper into it. I hear you, but I don't see the vision. Let me paint you a fucking picture, DC. So let's jump into the first block of my plan, right? We're building a foundation here. One of our biggest problems in the DC was our casting. And that's, you know, not a slight at anyone. There's no shot at any particular actor. I think everyone did a fantastic job. But just hear me out. Casting for our superheroes in particular is mad tough. Like, we can't get a Chris Evans for Captain America, RDJ for Iron Man, etc., because our heroes are a lot more diverse. It's not one-sided where it's the same character in each one. We have multiple different takes. So for example, in our DCU's Justice League, none of the actors individually felt out of place or just like it was bad, besides Ezra. Burn that man. But what I do feel like was the team didn't naturally feel like it went together, because I feel like each one of those properly casted actors were doing a different take for a different storyline. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not saying any of the casting choices was wrong as much as the interpretations could have been used in a different storyline on individual properties instead of the Justice League. That didn't feel like the Justice League as much as a bunch of heroes souped in together with no type of chemistry. And I know, like, whatever, this is their first mission together, they're gonna learn to work together. It didn't naturally flow. So my solution, instead of finding one perfect Superman, which is super difficult, no shade towards Henry Cavill, but instead of finding one Superman and putting him into a cinematic universe that we've created, we instead should look towards the fans and ask, who do they want to see casted as Superman, and giving each one of these actors a chance at a different storyline. So instead of one cinematic universe where there's only one Superman, we have 100 universes where we could do Red Sun, we could hit All-Star Superman, we could do Injustice. We have so many Superman storylines that we can afford to lower the budget a little bit, have each one of these actors come in and showcase what you got. Let's jump into some fan casting. Let's start with the big three: Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, because we know these are the pillars of the DC and they need to be casted properly. Pillars, foundation, that's what we're talking about here. Now with fan casting, I'm gonna read off my script. You're gonna have to deal with it because these are a lot of names and most of these people I don't even know, but I did some research on who do the DC fans, who have they been asking for on Reddit and other forums, etc., etc. So starting off with Superman, I personally want to see Matt Bomer, who, if you watched White Collar, that boy can act, and he's got this like the charm look that brings like this very classic Superman. I want to give Henry Cavill another opportunity, at least like a final goodbye, because I felt like he was done pretty dirty, to just be like, here's All-Star our Superman, right? So you get a one-off movie where we know, spoilers, your character is going to be, you know, Kaputskis, but at least it's a great opportunity for you to showcase who you wanted Superman to be, and then it's our final send-off. It's a love letter. That's fantastic. And then two other big choices that I don't personally know like that, but on the forums have been yearning for, is Spencer Boldman and Tom Brittney. Apparently, these two are rising stars that could bring fresh energy to the role of Superman. I don't know, but why not give them a very simpler project to work on? Let's make a Superman television show where each one gets a little 45-minute episode. Being that I'm extending the plan in the middle of this video. I'm genius. Now, when casting Batman is super difficult to really cast, only because of this notion. It's very hard to portray this billionaire, playboy, introvert with extrovert, you know, qualities, silent, broken, cocky douchebag jerk that is Bruce Wayne, and then also play this gritty dark knight, whatever. Very hard to do. Very hard to do. And it's not even in terms of just like, oh, can I as an actor play both of these characters? Sure, Can that one character exist in one person look-wise? Mad difficult. But regardless, so here are some of the castings for Batman that the fans have been asking for. They're already doing the work for you on fan casting. They have Carl Urban, Jake Gyllenhaal, Aaron Taylor Johnson, which is my personal preference, Jensen Ackles, of course, Oliver Jackson Cohen. Each one of these can have a completely different twist on who Batman is, and I would be excited to see each one of them get a full run at their take on Batman. Now, when looking for the fan casting for Wonder Woman, you kind of, I feel like Wonder Woman is kind of the biggest opportunity to find somebody super diverse. She's an Amazonian, which doesn't really mean much. Like, yeah, she's Greek, I suppose, but there should be like some play around. But the forum is asking for Jamie Alexander, Adria Arjona, hope I didn't butcher your name, Alexandra Daddario, probably butchered your name. All of these women, look them up. Sure, I could 1000% see it. And even if I can't see it, who cares? Let's give them a chance and just be like, oh, she actually crushed it. Or tried that, failed that, whatever. But we cut the budget in half. We're okay. So Lex Luthor. We could do Mark Strong, Stanley Tucci, who would kill it, Michael Fassbender. Michael Cranston would destroy it if we did like a Dark Knight Returns, where Lex Luthor is older as the president. So Green Lantern. I think Nathan Fillion has the perfect blend of humor and bravado to play like a Guy Gardner Green Lantern. And Theo James is a perfect Hal Jordan. Perfect. Strong choice for Fearless Test Pilot. That's cool. Booster Gold. Alan Richardson, Glenn Powell, Will Poultner. All three have the comedic chops and the physique to bring this quirky hero to life. Hot Girl, Meta. I want to see nobody else. I'm just joking. But Naomi Scott also would kill it. Both would bring a unique, fierce energy to this character. Now, let's talk storylines. The DC animated universe has always been a treasure trove of just amazing tales, and it's time to bring some of these to live action. Let's say we start with Hush. Imagine Jared Padalecki as the Riddler and Jensen Ackles as Batman. The chemistry would be off the charts. If we did Red Sun and Elseworlds Tale, where Superman's ship lands on Soviet Russia, this could be an incredible one-off movie. Doom, or Flashpoint, where epic stories are redefined in DC, blending timelines and characters in a way we haven't seen before. Under the Red Hood or Court of Owls, perfect for Batman-centric storylines that dig into the dark, more mysterious corners of Gotham. We can do Batman Beyond, of course. For the older actors past their prime, how about a mentor role for Bruce Wayne in a futuristic Gotham? All-Star Superman, this can serve as a standalone film, also used to see other actors such as Henry Cavill return without the pressure of an ongoing role. Assault on Arkham. Leaning more into the dark action, dry humor, this could be a Suicide Squad we didn't know we needed. Or how about Laughing Joke, Batman vs. Robin, to Bad Blood. This could be an opportunity for Batwoman to be showcased without trying to do this standalone project. Crisis on Two Earths, Soul Dragon, Legion of Doom, where Batman creates a plan to kill each one of the Justice League and splits the team, etc., etc. The opportunities here are just like, there's so many storylines. Stop trying to create one. We have 1,000. Utilize these guys. That's the point. Now, point number 3 is making movies for the culture. Quick preface, I'm going to try to say this statement as politically correct as possible, right? When it comes to diversity in the big screen, especially when it comes to superheroes, right? We get a lot of pushback because of either whitewashing or kind of like a desperate ploy of diversifying by whatever, changing the casting for someone who is black or Middle Eastern or Asian or whatever race they pick that is not white. And it's just like, okay, there's two schools of thoughts here that are the issues, right? There's many schools of thoughts, but regardless, either one, the people who grew up watching this character depicted as white because for a long period of time, for very obvious reasons, heroes were drawn and colored in as white. That was the main target audience, correct? Fine. So to see them finally get the opportunity of being on the big screen and us having to kind of, I'm going to say, overcorrect by going, oh, let's make sure that other cultures are involved because they weren't allowed to be involved back then. And now there's pushback in this direction of just like, oh, you're forcing culture, like you're just trying to please this audience and not trying to do this character justice. Cool, I get you, I hear you, you're kind of wrong and stupid, but it is what it is. Or 2, it kind of just feels like because we're slowing down on, you know, only picking one Captain America, only picking one Iron Man, etc., etc., because we're slowing down by only picking, you know, one Batman at a time, one Superman at a time, one Flash at a time, it's very bold to make these kinds of choices because you're not going to get get that opportunity to kind of play around with who else can be with. But like I said, with my plan, because there's 10 different Flash movies coming out within the next 5 years, we could play around with it of let's have a white Flash, let's have an Asian one, what if he's Hispanic, let's introduce Wally West, whatever, instead of just like, oh, either go cookie cutter with this ginger, which is perfectly fine because that's who, you know, Barry Allen is and that's my boy, correcting it to somebody else and not getting pushed back because like that's not my Flash. We have many other heroes that we could see side by side with, though these are the, you know, the big names, the big six, etc., etc. We also have a lot of actually like diversified heroes that have been yet to be depicted for reasons unknown. They're known, but maybe their name isn't as big. But regardless, if we are able to do a lot of smaller projects at a time, we could play around with, okay, having people stick with being casted as the person of their culture versus kind of, like I said, overcorrect a mistake that we have been making egregiously in the past. And now where are the roles for the white guys? Now there's roles for everybody, at least in my plan. So here's a couple projects that I feel like can be immediately implemented into my plan. Yeah. So in no particular order, though I will say there's a lot more representation for the African American superheroes than there are for most other cultures. We're going to start there. So here we go. We have Icon, Steel, President Superman, who's Calvin Ellis, Val Zod Superman, which could be played as Michael B. Jordan, or James Leon as Val Zod. And how about John Boyega as Batman in Second Son? Works for me. We could do Wally West. Let's see Miles Brown suit up as the Flash. We could do Static Shock, where Caleb McLaughlin, who's been fan casted as the Flash for a long time, can finally bring out his electric side. So for my Asian superheroes, we did have the Festival of Heroes, which was a short run of comic books featuring Katana. But we just need more Asian superheroes to be in the spotlight. A Green Lantern like Tai Pham, played by Harry Shum Jr. or Charles Melton, could lead the way. Manny Jacinto could finally play Nightwing, or an upcoming teen actor could play the Chinese Superman Kenan Kong. For my Latin heroes, we have Hot Girl, who's Kyle Rayner, who could be played by Diego Tinoco, or Jessica Cruz, who could be played by Camila Mendez. The Latin community needs representation, and these characters are perfect for the job. But we also have Blue Beetle, Bane, and Lobo. Imagine Jason Momoa or Roman Reigns as Lobo. Unfreaking stoppable. For the Middle East heroes, we have Simone Biaz, who is one of the newer Green Lanterns, played by Sendil Ramamurthy or Dev Patel. Baz could be a fresh perspective on the Lantern Corps. They also have Hawk Girl or Audrey Mock, who is Batgirl. Oscar Isaac as Hawkman. Sign me up, buddy. So, conclusion. Now, of course, we could do superhero team up once we get like the feedback. How did the movie turn out? How did the actors perform? Is there fan favoritism? Etc., etc. And we could do this in like Crisis on Infinite Earths, Injustice, the Justice Guild. If, you know, actors don't make the chopping block of playing like the main, you know, names, the big names, but they were close. You came close. Go to the Justice Guild. You'll be fine. And there you have it, folks. My plan to save the DC universe on the big screen. Whether it's through inspired casting, epic storylines, or more inspired movies, I believe that the DC can still rise to its full potential. But I want to hear from you. What do you think of my ideas? Who would you like to see casted? Let's keep the conversation going. Leave, but I want to hear from you. What do you think of my ideas? Who do you want to see casted in these iconic roles? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's keep the conversation going, because I genuinely think that DC just needs to listen to what its fans want, and this could be its startup. Who knows? But until then, just don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you get notified for any of my future content. But until then, I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.